Every major American city grew around a natural advantage: a deep harbor, a river, a lake. Phoenix grew around the absence of all three. 5 million people live in a desert where water travels 336 miles uphill. A 72-hour blackout could push homes past 104 degrees inside. In almost every way, it's the opposite of how a city should work. The strange part is, someone already figured out how to live here, centuries ago. New York's rise depended on a harbor deep enough to anchor ocean liners, 45 feet at the East River by 1900. That harbor turned the city into a gateway for 13 million tons of cargo every year. Chicago, perched at the southern tip of Lake Michigan, connected Great Lakes shipping with rail lines crossing the continent. That lake and rail junction made Chicago the world's largest grain market by 1910. These cities grew by harnessing water and geography, letting rivers and harbors do the heavy lifting for trade, travel, and industry. Phoenix, by contrast, sits hundreds of miles from any navigable waterway, surrounded by desert, with no natural corridor for commerce or supply. Its growth would have to find another engine entirely. Long before Phoenix became a metropolis, the Hohokam and Tohono O'odham shaped the desert with architecture tuned to the climate. Their homes use thick adobe walls, sometimes more than a foot wide, to soak up daytime heat and hold it until night, creating a cooling effect that lagged behind the sun by 4 to 6 hours. Courtyards sat at the heart of these settlements, shaded by mesquite and palo verde trees, channeling breezes through narrow alleys. At night, indoor temperatures could drop 5 to 7 degrees Celsius below the outside air. The Hohokam engineered canals to bring water straight to their doorsteps, turning dry washes into fields and shaded gardens. These strategies let entire communities thrive in extreme heat, without the need for machines or imported energy. Proof that the desert could be lived with, not just endured. By the mid-20th century, Phoenix's approach to city-making turned sharply away from its desert roots. Residential air conditioning, once a luxury, spread quickly. Just 20% of homes had it in 1955, but by 1975, that number soared to 70%. The city's planning department, working closely with developers, mapped out wide grids of single-family lots, each with its own driveway and patch of green lawn. Interstate 10, completed in stages from 1965 to 1990, cut through the valley and unlocked even more distant land for development. Zoning codes favored low-density sprawl, and mechanical cooling replaced thick adobe walls and shaded courtyards. Rather than adapting to the desert, Phoenix built a city that depended on machines to keep the heat at bay and cars to connect far-flung neighborhoods, setting in motion a new cycle of environmental challenges. Summer nights in Phoenix once offered a rare desert comfort. In the 1950s, it was common for nighttime temperatures to dip into the low 70s, sometimes even the 60s, as the heat of the day radiated back into the open sky and the city's modest footprint left plenty of earth exposed. But as Phoenix expanded, the character of its nights changed. Today, the city regularly records more than 35 nights each summer, where the temperature never falls below 90 degrees Fahrenheit, a figure almost unheard of in the mid-20th century. This is not just a matter of summer feeling a bit warmer. It is a measurable shift that shows up in NOAA's long-term climate records and in the lived experience of anyone trying to sleep with the windows open. The explanation lies in how the city has reshaped its own surface. Satellite images from the Landsat program reveal a 37% increase in impervious surfaces, including roads, parking lots, and rooftops, since 1990. Where native vegetation once cooled the ground through shade and evaporation, now there is a patchwork of asphalt and concrete that soaks up the sun's energy all day and releases it slowly through the night. The result is a persistent urban heat island, where nighttime lows are several degrees higher than the surrounding desert. Scientists at Arizona State University have mapped these patterns, showing that neighborhoods with the most pavement and the fewest trees can be up to 10 degrees hotter at midnight than outlying areas. This phenomenon is not unique to Phoenix, but the scale is striking. In most cities, the heat island effect is noticeable but manageable. Here, the sheer size of the paved footprint and the scarcity of mature shade mean that the city's cooling cycle, once so reliable in the desert, has been fundamentally altered. The consequences ripple outward: higher energy demand for air conditioning, greater stress on vulnerable residents, and a feedback loop that locks Phoenix into ever hotter nights. For a city built in a place where nighttime cooling was once a lifeline, these numbers make the change tangible. The landscape itself has become a kind of thermal battery, storing up the day's heat and refusing to let it go. The Central Arizona Project, CAP, is the reason nearly 5 million people can live in the Sonoran Desert today. Stretching 336 miles from Lake Havasu on the Colorado River to the edge of Tucson, this concrete aqueduct is less a river and more a giant conveyor belt for water built to move what nature never would. Along its route, a series of massive pumping stations lift water nearly 2,900 feet uphill, about the height of 2 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. Each station hums with turbines and electric motors, drawing power from the grid and at times from Hoover Dam's hydroelectric output. The engineering is impressive, but the numbers reveal the bargain Phoenix has struck. CAP delivered 1.13 million acre-feet of water to central Arizona in 2022, a figure down from its contractual maximum of 1.5 million, reflecting ongoing drought and cutbacks along the Colorado River. That is enough to fill more than 500,000 Olympic swimming pools, but it is also a finite supply, divided among cities, farms, and tribal nations across the state. Water managers watch snowpack forecasts and reservoir levels with a precision that borders on anxiety, knowing that every drop pumped uphill is spoken for before it even arrives. Unlike cities that grew up around rivers or lakes, Phoenix depends on water that must be imported, elevated, and rationed. The CAP's path cuts across open desert, farmland, and suburban rooftops, visible from the air as a pale blue ribbon winding east. Its operation is a daily reminder that the city's survival rests on a system that can never rest. Pumps must run, power must flow, and the river itself must keep moving, even as the west grows hotter and drier. This engineered lifeline is both a marvel and a warning. CAP can deliver only what the Colorado River can spare, and every year that number grows less certain. Phoenix's future is tied to an aqueduct that cannot make rain, cannot refill lakes, and cannot solve the underlying mismatch between desert demand and available water. The city's growth, prosperity, and even its lawns depend on a promise that water will keep flowing uphill, against geography, against climate, and sometimes against the odds. When a heat wave hits Phoenix, comfort depends on a steady flow of electricity. The city's homes, most built with lightweight timber frames, offer little resistance when the grid goes down. In outage simulations run by Arizona State University, indoor temperatures in a typical modern house can climb past 104 degrees Fahrenheit within 72 hours, even with windows open and fans running on backup batteries. By the third day, the air inside often matches or exceeds the outside heat, making it nearly impossible to sleep, recover, or even hydrate safely. The risk is not just theoretical. In July 2024, rolling blackouts during a heat wave forced thousands of residents to seek relief in public cooling centers, but many neighborhoods had no nearby shelter. The design of these homes is a key part of the story. Timber construction has about 1/10 the thermal mass of adobe, the material favored by indigenous builders for centuries. That means walls heat up and cool down quickly, tracking every spike in the outdoor temperature. In contrast, a traditional adobe house, with its thick earthen walls, can absorb and store heat during the day and release it slowly after sunset, keeping interiors cooler for much longer. Field tests show that after 3 days of power loss at peak summer temperatures, adobe interiors usually stay below 95 degrees Fahrenheit, while timber-framed homes can hit 104 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. This gap in passive survivability turns a simple outage into a life-threatening emergency. Hospitals report spikes in heat-related illnesses after prolonged blackouts, especially among the elderly and those with chronic conditions. Emergency planners warn that, in a worst-case scenario, as many as 1 million residents could face dangerous indoor heat within 3 days if the grid fails during an extreme event. For a city that relies so heavily on mechanical cooling, the margin for error is vanishingly thin. The comfort that air conditioning provides is fragile, always just one power failure away from collapse. Today, nearly 5 million people rely on cooling, pumped water, and the grid to outpace the desert's limits. As climate extremes intensify, every degree and drop counts. Phoenix remains a fascinating experiment, proof that urban life can defy geography, but not without growing stakes. What do you think?